Life That Matters. My name is Dr. Sharon Norris Elliott. I am so happy to have you with me again. Thanks for sticking in there week after week and watching Life That Matters. Your life matters for the kingdom of God. He came and died for you, to forgive your sin, and to begin a life that is just marvelous, right? In him. That doesn't mean all of your problems will be solved and you'll be walking on, what do they call it, rosy beds of ease. But it does mean that whatever happens in your life, once you have a relationship with Jesus, right? Whatever happens, he is on board with you. And we know that it makes all the difference in the world. So thank you for being here, being encouraged that your life matters for the kingdom of God. So now what I do for week to week is when I have the privilege of having a guest on my show, I choose people whose lives matter for the kingdom as well and who are doing something. They are on the move because their lives matter for Jesus. See, they are then putting their lives out there and their work out there, and in order for God to be pleased, number one, in order for you to receive a blessing, number two, and on, right? And so when I interview authors, obviously, right, they love Jesus. They know their lives matter for the kingdom, and Jesus expects them to do something about that. And so these authors have chosen to write books, right? In order to maybe help kids understand things better, to help us all understand the Bible better, to entertain us with good fiction, all that kind of thing. So this week, as most of you know, I'm a literary agent as well. And I get the privilege of meeting and working with many of God's people whose lives matter for his kingdom, and he has chosen them to write books. And I get to help them with those books. Sometimes I'm working on development, sometimes I'm helping with editing as a literary agent. Then I get to pair them up with publishing companies, publishing houses who then will publish those books. So this week is one of those people. This week and next week, we're going to continue the conversation with one of my clients in the Authorized Me literary firm, and that is Dennis Conrad. So Dennis, welcome, and why don't you say your first hellos to our viewers?
God bless everybody. I'm glad you're here. It's a great opportunity to be able to meet with you all and be able to just share some ideas and work with Dr. Elliott here in our time together.
Okay, so now you've gotten a glimpse of my friend Dennis. Dennis, let's start. It's always interesting to me how God puts people together, like for business deals or in relationships or in friendships or whatever. So for us, we have a business relationship here with these books. Why don't you tell your side of the story? It's always viewers, people who meet me always have a story to tell about how they met me. And I love to hear it. So, Dennis, how did you meet me?
Well, I'll tell you what. Fortunately, I had gone to some Christian writers' conferences,
Hmm.
and then I made a commitment to go to Mount Hermon. And Mount
Mm.
Hermon had the largest Christian writers' conferences in the world, actually, with regard to what was happening in the Christian market. And back in 2008, I happened to go to a class that you were teaching
Hmm.
to talk about how to use post it notes that would allow a person to be able to draft a book.
Uh-huh.
and help organize the book. And I remember watching that presentation and saying, I need to find this lady. I need to follow up with her. And I had a book idea at the time, and I never did find you until it happened to be at the SoCal Christian Writers Conference in 2020.
Oh
And
my
you
goodness.
were giving a presentation, and your presentation actually the way I had signed up for the conference, I was able to go ahead and talk to some of the presenters, and
Hmm.
I actually had a Zoom call with you in the summer of 2020. And I asked you at that time, I said, do you represent children's authors? And you said no. And I was very aware that I still wanted to figure out a way to work with you, but I kept your information, and I remember our conversation. And then it was about February, and I was starting to send out my manuscript to publishers on my own. And I wrote to you and I asked you in February whether or not you'd be interested in working on children's books at this point. And you had had a breakthrough with your contract with a company. And you said, Dennis, I am representing children's authors now. And boy, was I excited because now I had an agent. And all of my friends in my writers groups were saying, you've got an agent? How is that possible? And so it was very exciting. And then what happened is you started working with me. And I'm
Hmm.
going to talk about just for a moment. There was a need to be persistent and consistent. And you helped me put together a proposal. You started to coach me with regard to putting together some presence on the internet and
Hmm.
developing what is called a platform. And you encouraged me, and we kept working and working. And then you said, well, you need to research your comparable titles. Well, I went out and I got about 30 books that are children's books that happen to do with my topic area.
Uh-huh.
And I was dedicated. I said, I am going to do this right. And then you started presenting my proposal around. And finally, one of them said, we're interested. And that was Elk Lake Publishing. And they said that they wanted, because we had put it in the proposal, that I had a 7 book series.
Hmm.
And they said that they would want the 7 book series. And
Woohoo!
and so talk about exciting. This is a wonderful opportunity that we've had to work together the last many years in our contact together.
Well, that that is so cool. You see, viewers, things don't always happen overnight, right? It was interesting that Dennis was in my class in 2008, right? At a writers conference. Just in case you don't know what a Christian writers conference is, if you are interested in writing and you write Christian um, topics, like it doesn't have to be a Bible study, it can be. You can maybe be interested in writing articles for Christian magazines or any area, any genre that would include, right, faith. It doesn't have to be this hard hitting, right? It doesn't have to be a salvation message, particularly, but maybe it's a a novel that's more like a Hallmark movie, right? That has a positive message toward the end. But Christian writing in general, you would go to a Christian writers conference and you get a chance to meet. Now, get this, the actual publishers, the actual acquisitions editors from publishing houses, and even literary agents who are there not only teaching the classes about this industry, but also meeting with you for you to bounce your ideas off of them and see if they would be interested in publishing your work. And so, Dennis met me at one of those conferences, as he said, and then I don't know how you didn't find me at the conference because at a conference like that, you're intermingling, with people all the time, but it took 12 years, right? I don't know what happened. I didn't go anywhere until, but it took 12 years until 2020, until we crossed paths once again. So you heard the rest of his story. So now, had you started writing, Dennis, in 2008, or were you just um, like searching at that point?
Well, if you can imagine this, I had about 2008 when I left the conference, I sat down and I wrote a novel that was 270 pages long.
Wow.
And that novel never went anywhere. And I was inspired to write it, but uh, I will tell you that when you start to learn about the craft of writing, you
Hmm.
start to realize that there are certain things that you need to do, and there are certain things that follow along in the plot sequence, for example.
Mm.
And I had done none of those in that
Uh,
270 pages. And so I am humbled, and I learned that. And then I really was also always taking journal time, and I would write things that way. And I had some short stories. And then in different years, I'd actually attend some programs where they had us write. One program is called the Inland Area Writing Project.
okay.
And that project was a total immersion project for a month. And I wrote my first children's book back then. So
Oh,
I'd had opportunities.
okay. And so I like how you are kind of expressing, um, yeah, I want to write a book, but there are still a lot of things I don't know. So what you're really telling us is that writing a book, any kind of book, is more takes more than putting words on a page.
It does.
Okay,
And it's
takes
more
more.
than just a bunch of pages. If you get a lot of quantity and it doesn't have quality,
Okay, good point. Now, I know that you are writing your children's book um, based on your children's books, right? Based on some background that you have in your career, right? And some things that you have done. So, why don't you bring us up to speed on your adventurous career?
well, I'll tell you what happened. I think that the career has to do a little bit more with being a teacher, and I got a
Mm,
chance to do that. I think one of the things that happened is that I was a professional speaker, and I got a chance to speak from Delaware to Hawaii, all over the country. And I was teaching business writing for results and grammar and usage. So I was in the area of communication again. Then I went to the United Kingdom. I also taught over there exceptional customer service and
hmm.
business coaching that way. So I had a good opportunity to really do some traveling, but then I ended up teaching at Barstow Community College, and I started in 2001, right about the time of the 9/11. And that was
Oh,
an interesting experience. And I ultimately got to teach for Barstow College through the actual area that I was working there until 2017 when I retired.
uh-huh. Okay, so um you did though tell me, yes, things are coming from your career, but you did mention that you did some writing back when you were like 8 years old.
Yes, I did. And I'll even show you what I have. Take a look at here. I'll make sure there is a cow picture. And the story of this little framed cow begins when my parents, who had met milking cows in
Oh,
rural Kansas, and they were very interested in wanting to make sure that I had, being a city dweller, a chance to go out and see some dairies. So we went out and we visited a dairy, and there we saw a cow and a calf and everything. And I got back to town and I drew a picture of a Guernsey cow. And then I wrote the little story that you saw underneath there, which said dairy cow, the dairy cow. And then I had 8 lines and I signed my name. Well,
okay.
my mom happened to frame this and stick it in the hall where I'd see it
Oh,
going in and out of my room. And so there was a chance to be recognized for having written something. But imagine I'm looking through the garage and there are some boxes, and I find the cow. And this is many years later when I'm writing now children's books. And I said, there is evidence that I was doing this back when I was 9 years old. And I know it's 9 years old because there's some paperwork behind the cow that tells me about the year that was happening.
Okay, so I had you a year earlier. So I had you at 8, but you were starting out though. You're doing the research,
Right,
right?
doing the research.
Doing the
Yeah,
research.
that's my first book. We'll call it the first book.
That's cool. That's cool. I remember going to, and I'm a city kid completely. But I remember going to the fair and going over where the animals were and walking by the cows and just marveling at how huge a cow is. Right. I'd only seen cows from the car, looking over into a pasture, right? Or going by. And of course, they look to be that big. Okay. When you look over um, on the field, but being what 2 feet away from the cow, I was just floored by the size of a full grown cow. Okay, so and I was an adult at the time. I'd never been that close to a cow. Okay, so I can imagine being a kid, right, and being just fascinated, right, with the cows. And I know that's why children love animals. I have a 2-year-old grandson of the three. He's the baby, and he loves all the animal sounds. If we go through and mention what does the cow say, right? What does the chicken say? He's just that's his thing right now. So animals, bring us into the wonder of God's creation, all of that. And so, thank you for sharing that story and your first a byline, right?
Yes,
By Dennis
absolutely. That's
Conrad. Look at
great.
that. So we talked about your career, but you didn't talk about the collecting of coins.
Well, I'll share that with you because when I was, here we go, with 8 years old,
Mm-hmm.
I had a friend of my father's who gave me three what are called Liberty Head nickels. They're also known as V nickels. And
Hmm.
these are the kinds of coins that were before the Buffalo nickel. And so I got these three coins. They were very well worn. I will tell you that if anybody out there happens to be listening and you happen to see a 1913 V nickel, they're worth millions of dollars.
Ooh, everybody's starting to dig right now, right?
Right. Look at that old change and see there are only five known right now. So they're very valuable. But I got those, and then this man said, "Why don't you come to the Los Angeles Coin Club?" And my dad took me, and we never stopped going all through the 60s, early 70s. I built quite a collection at that point. I was very fortunate to learn a lot about coins because every month they would have a speaker and they would bring samples of their work and what have you, or the coins that they had collected and share them with a
Hmm.
display. Um, I continued to really be involved and actually went to the Numismatic Association of Southern California, and they had a chance for me to display my coins, and I displayed some things there, and I actually won a nice um, uh, trophy that I was given. And
Nice.
so, well, fast forward over the
Mm-hmm.
years, I would stop and buy coins at coin shops and what have you, and add to my collection. But
Mm-hmm.
then I had a situation where my wife said in 2013, when she was retiring, she says, "Well, why don't you sell your coins?"
Hmm.
And I said, "Sell my coins?
Right.
No, I love my coins. I've
No.
collected these all these years." And then she said, "Well, think about it. Well, that is about the time that the Lord said, 'You have to sell your coins.'"
Mm.
And I wanted to be obedient. And so I wrestled with this for a while, but
Mm-hmm.
finally I sold my coins at the top of the market. in 2013 then.
Wow.
And, you ask how much my collection was worth.
Mhm.
It was worth cash at the time. But more
Wow.
importantly, I used that money to pay off our home mortgage. Now it
Incredible.
has been almost 10 years without a mortgage. So imagine, and that's over $100,000 of savings. So, what a
Wow.
collection can be worth, God only knows. And He certainly worked it out for His glory.
And now you are writing your children's books really based on, and viewers, this is why the show is called what it's called. The theme of our show today is follow the money, right? So we're going to follow the coins and the money that Dennis learned about through all of his years. I cannot say that word, Dennis, with the new miss
As a numismatist, a
as a
person who
numismatist. Yes, I can say that word. Don't say what you can't do. Right. As a numismatist. Okay. And his books are based on what he learned, right, about those coins, as well as they are also connected with how a young person or a young reader, right, can know something about God as well. So look at that.
absolutely.
What God will do with the things that interest you. You see, God is not asking you to give up your life for Him. He's asking you to give your life to Him, not give it up. All right? And so the life that you've lived, the things that have interested you, He can still use for you to bless other people. And that is what's happening with Dennis. Dennis is writing his children's series based on what he has learned about money, like coins and money. So we are just 5 minutes. We just have 5 minutes left in this show. And I want it to be that way. So we could talk mainly in the next show about your books, but let's give them a taste of what that first book is about. So, Dennis, why don't you tell us a little bit about the first book in your 7 book series?
My first book is The 2 cent piece. It is a coin that is no longer in circulation, but it is a coin that has it's the first coin that was first minted in 1864, around the time of the Civil War, with the words "In God We Trust." So it is a powerful testimony to Christ and to God. That coin happens to come into the possession, some of those coins come into the possession of Anne. She's a young girl, and her brothers are about to go off to fight in the Civil War, and she wants to have something to give them that will be very important from her, but also that can reinforce their faith as they go away. And these brothers go off, but she's given them the 2 cent pieces with the words "In God We Trust," and she quotes some scripture. And then uh, there's another little person who
Now,
shows up.
we don't want to give away
Oh
too
yeah,
much
we don't want to give
of the
away too
book
much.
because now these books are for what age?
They are for 5 to 7, 8. And one of the good things is that I know that it's been a challenge in the culture with people sometimes having their children read a little bit later and what have you. So it would work even for a 9 or 10-year-old child, I think, today.
Okay, now I have had the privilege of working with Dennis on his books, and we have worked on several of them. Of course, we have to have them ready for the publisher. But this 2 cent piece, the 2 cent piece, you and your children are going to love it. Let me tell you, you are going to love it, and you are going to be stuck, right? On this series. So you will be waiting with bated breath for every book that comes out, and they are scheduled for like every 6 months, right, for a new
Hmm.
book in the series to come out. So we're going to end today's show in just giving you that tidbit We'll start the next show with, again, just that tidbit about the 2 cent piece, and then get into the topics of some of the other books that you could look forward to. But Dennis, when is the 2 cent piece scheduled for launch?
It is coming out, if you can imagine this, in 4 to 6 weeks. And so it's soon, it's very quick. I have some free resources. If we have time, I can mention them.
Okay, you have 2 minutes right now.
Okay, I'll just tell you. For the people who might be interested in becoming coin collectors, or their children, encouraging their children to be coin collectors, even as early as age 5 and 6 or
Mm-hmm.
7 and up, I have 2 resources. And what I've done is put them together in easy to read, simple material with activity pages. And so a person can get those by going to uh, https colon forward slash Dennis Conrad author.com, Dennis Conrad author.com
Mm-hmm.
forward slash O dash or dash, excuse me, a hyphen O1. So it's got Dennis Conrad author.com freebie forward slash freebie dash O1. Don't
But now
forget
they
the
can
freebie.
get to your website at
Yeah.
dennisconradauthor.com,
Yes,
correct?
and they'll be able to help me.
And
Yes.
then you'll be able to surf around the website and find these freebies. So, what we're going to do is we're going to start next week's show with that information once again, and then move forward to talk about how we're going to follow the money through Dennis's other books. So be sure to be with us next time. Thank you for being with us this time with my guest, Dennis Conrad, his new book, which is The 2 Cent Piece, coming out in just a few days from the when this show first aired. All right, so you'll be looking for that with from Elk Lake Publishing or Amazon.com. So be sure to be with us again next time.